This is Krista Brown coming to you live from Buenaventura Lakes, and I represent BVL Neighborhood Watch Coalition, and I'm bringing you a live interview with one of the sheriff deputy candidates, Marco Lopez. Sit back, watch, and enjoy. Get out and vote. Early voting starts August 3rd, and our primary is August 18th. And our polling site is the Robert Cavaro Community Center. Let your voices be heard. Do it. Okay, hello, candidate
Hello, thank you.
Lopez.
Thank you for having me.
meeting with us today. And I would just like to first ask you about your dismissal from the Osceola Sheriff's Department. If you could briefly talk about
Sure.
that, and then we can get right into the questions.
Okay. We'll go from where this all started. In 2016, I decided to run for sheriff of Osceola County. I noticed that there was a lack of diversity, for better words. I believe at that time it was about 19% of the total employees of the department were minority based, and we were at a 55-60% minority community. Um, Growing up, in a diverse neighborhoods like from Chicago and even in Florida here, I felt that there was definitely a disconnect, and we really need to start looking more like the people we serve. I think it's important, especially now with everything that's been going on. So at that time, I ran, and part of my platform was implementing a community advisory review board, so we can start with that transparency. We can start developing a better relationship with our community. Let people know what we're about. If you feel you're a part of something, you're going to be more willing to accept it and be more willing to take part in a lot of things we do. And that's just part of the transparency when you implement a community advisory review board. Well, I also started requesting for females in our administration or more females in our workforce. I have a daughter, and she was like, "Daddy, why don't you have sergeants or lieutenants?" I said, "You know what, females." And I said, "Honey, they're working on it," because I really didn't have a good answer to tell her. Little by little, it was just their lack of interest in pushing certain people into the ranks or in their recruitment process. It was that system that had been here forever, and no one had complained. So I was a sergeant at the time. After the campaign was over, I ran as a nonpartisan. I did not win. The current sheriff that won demoted me from sergeant to patrol, saying that my political platform was a criticism of the department. And I said, no, it wasn't. It was merely the deficiencies as the community saw was necessary in order to better our relationship with the sheriff's department. I was just expressing what the people wanted, not me. So, and that was just one of the things. We won't get too much detail. So I accepted my demotion. They sent me to patrol. In May of 2019, I saw that we were still like at 26-27% minority based, lacking bilingual officers, lacking diversity, and I just felt that the administration was going in the wrong direction still. And I said, you know what? I'm going to run again. I have every right to run. It's our constitutional right. And as soon as I decide to run for sheriff, the current sheriff fires me, saying I had no constitutional rights to run against a seated sheriff. That's not true. You can fact check Florida State Statute 99, subsection 5, under the resign to run law. I have every right to run as sheriff, being employed, even though he's seeking re-election. And once I'm qualified, which was last June 12th of this year, 2020, I had to resign, and I understood that. So I still had almost a whole year at the workforce. And here we are today, seeking to be elected for the sheriff and bring that positive reform that I'm 100% sure it's going to work to benefit our minority community, all in general. But our minority community has been long time neglected, and there are a lot of qualified and smart minorities in our community that can do these jobs. They just need the opportunity, the tools to start doing this.
Well, thank you. I'm going to dive right into the questions. Why do you want to be sheriff?
Well, to reiterate what I said, I think that since the 1990s, after Rodney King, we started seeing that there was a change in the direction that law enforcement was going. It was pretty much us versus them mentality. It's like we against the police against you. It shouldn't be like that. You're a citizen. You give me the opportunity to police you, the authority to police you. We should police you the way you want to be policed. And I'm not taking anything away from the Florida State Statute or the law, but implementing community advisory review boards are going to help you have a voice. You say, hey, we don't like this, or hey, we like this, or we like this policy, or we don't. This is how we're disciplining our officers. Those are just some of the things that we're lacking, and I feel that once elected, I'm going to implement these programs that are going to be successful. A veterans liaison department. We have so many veterans moving here to Central Florida, thousands, and some are coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. All they're doing is getting arrested, and they're not getting that the help they need. Let's give something back to those one percenters that have sacrificed themselves for this nation. And all we have to do is, once we arrest them, even depending, it doesn't matter the crime. Some of them might not qualify for veterans courts. However, we can channel them through the right organizations to help their process be a little easier. Maybe they need mental health. Maybe they need other type of services, domestic counseling type services. They're having issues at home. Those are some of the things we need to do. Also, a de-escalation training matrix. That is so important. Police back in the day, shoot first, ask question later. You remember that? Mm-hmm. That is not acceptable. We need to go into a situation. We need to go in there safely. We don't want officers dying also. Humbly. And try to de-escalate a situation, not intensify. And part of that de-escalation training matrix will include mental health training for our deputies. And maybe involving some social work related type employees to help not only the deputy but help the community. Those are some of the things that I noticed, and they're pushing me to run to make that change.
Okay. What distinguishes you from the other candidates?
Well, one, my extensive military background experience. The sheriff's department is paramilitary structured. You got to have that captain, that major, that rank structure to maintain order among the ranks. Also, serving 22 years in our military, one tour during Operation Iraqi Freedom, I had extensive experience in anti-terrorism and how to minimize casualties. That experience alone will help me implement a better school safety program, a better school safety community program. Right now, we don't have a counterterrorism-led police force like New York. A lot of agencies in America are going to that. And it's not to be unfriendly toward the citizens. It's to protect the citizens from terrorist attacks. But you have to give these officers the tools and the right training so they can gear in that direction, and that's what they're there for. They're not going to be there to get tickets or to do this or harass you if you're walking in public. They're there on intelligence-based policing to help minimize terrorist threats in our tourist areas and our schools. I think that's really important. Also, I'm trilingual, Spanish, English, Portuguese, which is a big advantage. The majority of the community here speaks Spanish. A lot of things get lost in translation. So whenever we have an exigent circumstance or a potential disaster, I can get out there right away and just start speaking instead of having to wait for someone to translate for me. A lot of stuff is lost in translation, and when time is precious, it's really important. And I'm not saying just because I'm Latino, I should be elected, but based on a lot of my qualifications, I will be the most well-rounded sheriff. Educational backgrounds in criminal justice and business management. I was a business owner for many years. I had contracts as big as the Great Orlando Aviation Authority. And my current business is Logen Tech Security Consulting Services. What we do is we're not generating any money from this business right now. All we do is go out, educate people on how to survive an active shooter, how to survive an active shooter at the workplace, implement policy and procedures based on domestic violence injunctions to help. It's not only a terroristic threat, but it could be someone's spouse or significant other that comes to the workplace. And we're going to try to keep employees safe from that also, because we've seen that. Some of the things that I can do that would help qualify me to be a better, a good sheriff.
Wonderful. Well, you answered number 3. Describe your law enforcement managerial experiences. Well, how about managerial experience?
Managerial experience in the military, I was in charge of many operations. One of the main things that I take a lot of pride in, and I actually got some awards for it in the military, was I got assigned to work with the Japanese. It was the first time they had been in country until a war, since World War II. I worked with the South Koreans, and I worked with the Taiwanese Army. We basically were assigned to execute all their equipment from planes, ships to land. Then we'd get them to the main bases. We'd help them get everything loaded up, and then we'd send them. They'd go forward to go into Iraq. So that's just some of the logistic and the managerial experience I have during time of war, which is crucial because you're working under that hot gun, and it gives you a little bit more experience when you can work under exigent type circumstances and stressful situations. Also owning my own business, managing employees and managing my own budget, and working with the public and try to keep people satisfied. Because when you're running your own business, It's your money. It's your future. You have to really be good to people to make sure you keep those clients happy. Little things like that. Supervisor at the sheriff's department, sergeant. I field trained many deputies. A little bit of that managerial experience goes hand in hand.
Okay. What do you think is the most important skill of being a good sheriff?
I think you have to have good people skills. You have to have good communication skills, but not just good communication skills, but you have to be a person of your word. You know, the current sheriff promised us body cameras from the very beginning, and we never got them. It was little by little, kept pushing it off, blaming the budget, blaming this guy, blaming that guy. If you're going to have a campaign promise from day one promising body cams, but you can't commit to that, you can't promise that. What I'm promising is a community advisory review board of enforcement standards, CARES. I've already developed it. I already have a policy and procedure for it. Day one, we're going to push that. That's easy. That's not hard. And we've been pushing, and that's been long overdue. Okay. The de-escalation matrix training, important. That's very doable. You're talking about all we have to do is implement a training program, training department, here you go. And the Veterans Liaison Department. We have a lot of veterans at the Sheriff's Office. We just put an office together, get with the veterans, with the courts here in Osceola County, and start working together with the veterans courts, working with Lake Nona, the Lake Nona VA facility, and bring them, everybody, we could put those organizations in immediately and start helping. And then diversifying the police force, implementing more bilingual speakers. Those come. One of the things about the body cam that if you can ask for federal funding, to compensate and get that, so we don't have to put the burden on the taxpayer. Now, those things are doable. And those are kind of the things that we're going to look at once we're seated.
Okay. Well, just to segue, that wasn't really a question I had for you, but since you talked about it, do you believe that body cameras are an important piece of equipment that is not an option, but kind of should be mandatory
Yes.
at this point?
I'll tell you why. It doesn't only protect the officer, but it protects the citizen. I go somewhere and I engage with a citizen. Things get ugly. That body camera is going to tell a story. It's going to be, whether it's good, bad, ugly, truth, no truth, it's going to tell one consistent story. I think that's really important. I also believe that body cameras are good tools to keep our officers in check. Say you have a police officer. There's always a bad apple in every bunch, and I'm not saying it happens at our department, but say you have and I always use an example when people get upset. A white officer stops 10 cars. 9 of those people are black, but we're not in a predominantly black area. There could be a problem with this officer. He could be profiling or targeting. So we need to look into this. Let me see why. What is the reasoning behind? You have to validate this. You have to make sure quality and control is always in place. This keeps our officers in check. Hey, we're watching you. He's either going to refrain from doing bad behavior, or we could look at it history. We could use it for training tools. Those are some of the little things for statistics and data. Those are some of the things also that are good for body cameras, because it's going to protect everyone all the way around. And it's a good training tool. Say the officer does a great job. Hey, check this guy out, what he did on camera. He reacted. He did this. He did that. We can praise him the same way we can, criticize. So the tool isn't to crucify any officers or citizens, but it is just to tell the truth, transparency, show what we do on a day-to-day basis. I believe body cameras are extremely important, and we should have had them years ago. A lot of people complain about the storage. A lot of people complain about the cost. But you know what? You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't have a body camera, then, you're trying to hide something. If you do have a body camera, where are we getting the money from? There's no happy medium. But I am a firm believer that we need to implement the body cameras to help that transparency and help rebuild that trust with our community.
Good answer. I'm kind of going off script now, but that leads me to another question. What do you believe as a prospective commander-in-chief for the Osceola County Police Department? What do you think about accountability? Do you think weeding out a bad cop?
We have zero tolerance for that. What's funny is, it's not even funny, it's in 2016 I ran and I pushed for diversity. I pushed, we need to look like the people we serve. I pushed for a community advisory review board. I got demoted for that, and eventually, and I'm sure that was part of why they led to my demotion. But now you have almost every chief, including ours and sheriff, they're kneeling. Before they were anti-kneeling. They're, oh, no chokeholds here, or we want a review board. So why now? Why not take the preventative measures years ago to prevent this? We're problem solvers, but we also need to take the preventative measures to prevent catastrophic incidents from happening. That's our job. So I think
Right. Okay. How would you promote community police interaction?
I've been out there knocking on doors, and I think that a lot of the excuse for some of the deputies, and I'm guilty of this. It's 103 degrees out there. Who wants to get out of their car at 103 degrees and you're in? It's hot. But what you have to do is you have to give the officer an incentive. You have to give them a little bit of an incentive of why it's important. You have to show them the plan of why building a community relationship benefits you. Why, when you start driving down the street, why, if you do this or engage in this manner, it's going to benefit people from not hating you. And they're going to start liking you. For example, Hispanics, when I talk to them, Latino, they say, when I call 911, can someone speak Spanish? When someone comes to my house to take a report, can someone speak Spanish? Same on traffic stops. Why am I getting arrested for resisting when I didn't speak the English? Why couldn't we try to facilitate that? And I do understand this is America, we speak English. But you know what? The reality is that a lot of minorities are moving here. We have Venezuelan citizens that move here. They're political asylum seekers. So now we're going to hold non-English against them? I go to the black neighborhoods. You know what they ask for? Very simple. Can you please drive in my neighborhood when there's no criminal activity? I'm like, that's simple. Just drive down the street when there's no crime. Because what do they see the cops when something bad is happening? So what do they associate? Police with bad behavior. Police bad. It becomes a culture. Let me tell you, one of the good things that I'm going to implement is a community contact card. This forces my deputy to engage. We have a contact card for everything. I see you out there cutting your grass. And I come by, hey, how are you? You're going to be like, what's he doing? I'm going to open up a contact card. And I'm going to say, today I made contact. If you want to remain anonymous, I put anonymous. But I let the department know that we're out there creating community contacts with the community. As a deputy, I have to announce it on the radio. And then we're going to have a minimum number of community contacts. It's easy. It's easy talking to you. You might give me a bottle of water. I just talked 15, 20. I just took a break engaging in positive contact with you. Mm-hmm. Simple. We're paying you to engage positively. You know what? Now, on the benefit side of this, you say, hey, you know what? At 3 a.m, I see cars down here coming in and out of that house, in and out of that house. And you're like, oh, really? To me, that's drug-related activity. Why? So now I take that information, I generate a call, we send it forward to the proper drug division. The drug division will say, okay, we're going to keep an eye on this. Before we close that ticket out, we're going to come back. Hey, how are you? You're good. That house, I don't know if you heard, SWAT hit it. We discovered 10 pounds of this, 10 pounds. You're going to be like, wow. You're going to be happy because the officer came by, positive contact, you give him a great tip, and something very positive came out of this. That's a little bit of the community engagement that we can do. And I know it sounds kind of ugly. We're going to force our deputies to engage, but they have to understand we are here to police the community, to protect and serve. We're going to police you the way you want to be policed. No more us versus them. That has to change.
This is a little bit of an incendiary question, and it's off topic once again.
It's okay.
But I wanted to ask you, as someone with feet on the ground, how do you feel about some police forces shift to make the public more responsible for their policing? In other words, if you wanted to impose a trespass warning violation, business owners being made to go and confront the person that's going to be trespassed.
Well, you got to remember one thing. Florida has, believe it or not, I want to say it's like, it could be even higher. 1 out of every maybe 6 to 7 people own or have or at some point had a firearm. And these statistics could be old. It means, out of every 10 people you potentially encounter, they could be carrying a firearm, whether it's legal or illegal. Now, if you want a business owner to confront someone on their own property, reference a trespass, verbally, non-aggressively, they've done it for years. But when you try to have them engage more in an authoritative figure without the proper training, that's when things can get ugly and people can lose their lives. And sometimes it could be the property owner. Like I tell people, life over property. Call the cops. Property, you have insurance. Property is, you can't take it with you. Property is valueless if you're around and you can't use it. Life is what is, God's gift. It's beautiful. So what we need to do is cherish life. If we can actually educate our business owner, educate our homeowners, educate what to do, yes. But engaging, I don't think it's a good idea. Unless you do it a soft approach, hey, this is my property, I don't need you here. And if it starts getting aggressive, call the police immediately. I think it's just the right way to go so you don't engage in any negative behavior that might come out not in your favor.
Assess the recent performance of the Sheriff's Department, and if elected, would you keep it on the same direction or change course?
Well, currently, from talking to deputies who I still have good relationships with, they're very unhappy. We've had a large turnover of deputies. A lot of them have left. We're short a little over 50 deputies on patrol. A lot of this has to do with low morale, no competitive wage, low pay, and compared to the surrounding agencies. You're always going to lose some, but you think about this. If you have say it takes you from day one to when they go to patrol on their own, and I'm just saying deputies, it's about $140,000 to train. You're talking about the cop car, the equipment. If this guy doesn't stay for longer than a year or two, and you have 10 turning over, every 6, 7, 8 months, or every couple years, you're losing millions of dollars. There's no retention plan. I propose to put in a green to gold program. What it is you come in, you're a rookie, you're new, you don't have college aspirations right off the bat. You're just going to go to work as a police, or you come back from the military. Green to gold, we plan your career. We start saying, hey, let's do this. At this year mark, we need to see you here. At this year mark, we want to see you here. And our incentives are you're going to get your college paid for. You're going to be able to go to supervisory type positions. You're going to go to specialty schools. And this way, this deputy, you start planning his future. And let me tell you something, once they hit from about 5 to 7 years, the retention is going to be more likely to stay as long as you're treating your employees right. Our supervisors definitely need to be trained mental health training to be able to supervise and manage those same deputies coming in. Look for those signs when deputies aren't happy. You need to have more well-rounded people at the department looking out for each other, and they're not doing that right now. I think pay is a big thing. Diversifying. Our dispatchers aren't. They always feel neglected, and everything starts there. If we don't have a dispatch unit, if you don't call, you got to call 911 to send a cop. So we need to take care of them too. Our community service officers. Right now we have a pandemic that the Sheriff's Department has failed to get them the proper PPE equipment. I've seen deputies wearing little scarves around their faces. They're real pretty. They say Sheriff Gibson, this and that on them. But now you're forcing me to engage with a citizen who's potentially exposed to COVID, but you're not giving me the right equipment. Now I have a family. I have children. So now I'm going to take it back to them, potentially kill them. I have grandma. You can't do that. You can't expose them and force them to do things that you're not going to provide them the proper equipment to engage. There's a lot of things that need to be changed, and we're going to definitely take a different course. There's some good things that are there that just need to be updated. But for the most part, we definitely got to start taking care more of the employees. Administration, there's 15, 20. Your workforce is 400 or 500. That's the backbone of the operation. You really need to take care of the little people because they're going to take care of you. They're your best ambassadors. And that's how we used to do it in the military.
What are your thoughts regarding recruitment?
I definitely believe that we need to really start recruiting more from the neighborhoods. It doesn't matter if it's your jurisdiction or it's not your jurisdiction. We go down and meet with these community leaders and pastors. And we say, hey, you know what? On Sunday, we're going to have a recruiting department at the BVL, the biggest church there. Announce it. I need 10 kids. You bring in 100. And we interview, we process, we're going to sponsor your academy. These are the requirements. This is what we're looking for. This is how this is going to benefit your community. Then you put them right back to work in those neighborhoods. They grew up there. They know everybody. They're well-rounded. They have, you're going to give them that green to gold program and how it's going to benefit them in the long run. They're going to be able to patrol grandma's residence. I think that's more of a motivating drive instead of recruiting from other states or recruiting from other counties, because they're going to come in, it's just a job. But I think if you recruit people from the neighborhoods where they live, I think it's going to be beneficial. We have a large Haitian community. Why haven't we hired one? One. for community services. I'm dumbfounded. They've been here since 2013, 2012. They have a large community in Poinciana. Not even one. And I've been fighting to see if we could run for years. There's no need. Because why? Because they only see the vote that's going to help keep them in office, the Hispanics. And I think we need to treat everyone the same. We need to look out for everyone in our community. Because God forbid something happens to some young Haitian, a misinterpretation. We kill them, and now we have a riot on our hands. Because we had no one to communicate. Let's recruit 5. Put 1 in community services and 4 patrol. Haitian people speak French, Creole, English, Spanish. You're getting like a 5-to-1 package right there. That's what we need, bilingual people. He can communicate to tourists, he can communicate to the Latinos, and he can communicate to the Haitian community. And they don't see that. And I don't know why. It's a simple one-on-one. And it's not a large voting bracket, but they live in our community, and we need to represent them. We need to bring everyone on board. And those are the kind of things that I reach out to, the smaller people that don't have a voice. Because I think it's important. They're paying, they're contributing to the taxes. We need them also at our sheriff's department.
Well, this is out of left field question, but what are the recruiting processes for a sheriff, for a deputy?
Well, right now, the recruitment is basically a GED, high school diploma, no felony convictions. You could have been arrested as long as it's like domestic. There's certain criteria they look at, but even misdemeanor possession of marijuana. They don't like cocaine or hard drug usage. You have to be an American citizen. The requirements are very low. So it's not like it's hard to recruit people. You're talking about a high school diploma, GED. So when you cannot fill a department with diverseness of the community, and you're saying we can't find qualified people, that's pretty. My opinion, that's offensive. High school diploma, GED. Think about that. If someone has a GED, they might want to be a cop because they don't want to go to college. Let's find out why. Let's talk to them. If that's the requirement, let's start recruiting. And they're going to have to pass a test. They're going to have to pass the requirements, but we can help them and give them the stepping stones needed and the tools needed to succeed. And those probably will be 20 times better officers, those young street kids that don't have that college background, than that guy that comes from college. Why? Because he's going to understand streets. He's been there. He's been from the bottom. He knows what it is to get, in a fist fight. He knows what it is to get punched in the head. They're kids that engage with the community, and they know this guy, all his life, giving it to him. He gets a 6-year degree, and now he wants to become a cop. What does he know? And now it doesn't matter what he is. You've got to have people from the streets that want to do this job also. They're not all criminals. There's a lot of law-abiding citizens that come from lower income neighborhoods. They just have different reasons why they're not going to college. Maybe they have to work, support their families. Those make some of the best cops.
What are Osceola County's most pressing law enforcement issues?
Like what do you mean? Like what's the most common type of crime or behavior that's been going on right now?
Okay.
That's really hard to tell because our violent crimes have gone up. We have a lot of violent crimes, whether it's domestic, aggravated type crimes, murder. Those are the kind of things that I've seen on the rise. We really need to focus on educating our community. It's hard to predict domestic type violent crimes, but when you do come in contact with someone who has a domestic violence history, those are more likely you go to a house 10, 15 times for domestic violence. That's statistically proven that those are the higher ones to have a violent outburst between each other, either an aggravated or a murder, and it happens a lot. And the victim a lot is a female. We need to get some resources to help that person. They have to break that it's like that grasp, that psychological grasp that their partner has on them. If you don't start reaching out and say, hey, listen, we can get you help, but we need more organizations to help us. We can identify a bunch of them, but if we don't have the cooperation of the victim or the cooperation of organizations, it's hard for us to dedicate 100% of our resources or our time to that. Remember, we are to enforce law. You break the law, we take you to jail. That's pretty much what police officers are supposed to do, protect and serve. But we have actually begun to become more well-rounded. The homelessness, the this kid's fatherless. And they're kind of trying to throw a little bit of everything to the sheriff's department. And, with all due fairness, I mean, a lot of these guys are, like I said, high school diploma, GED. Even if they have a college degree in business management, they don't have the educational background for psychology or social work. So they're throwing a lot on people that don't have the qualifications to deal with these things in public. So we're going to have to get more organizations involved that work directly with the department, or more people involved and employ them at the sheriff's department to help when we have these. So there's a lot of things we can do. As the crime trends, I mean, it's always going to fluctuate. But I think we've seen a rise in violent crimes, and we've seen it like even the celebration, the murder, suicide, it's sad. He killed the whole family. There was depression. There's a lot of things that are going to be out of our control. But a lot of the aggravated crimes, aggravated assaults, it's a lot of people just flashing a gun or trying to run you over, anger management. When we run into those people, not just arresting them, but we need to actually recommend some type of programs to help them offset some of that anger. I mean, they're living and they're driving every day in our neighborhoods.
Given our budget constraints, how would you stretch our taxpayer dollars and still deter crime?
Well, remember this. Right now, we have like an $80 million budget. A majority of that budget goes to payroll and gas and to purchase equipment. It's just a very small budget that actually we have left over to do community this over time. I think that there has been a lot of money mismanaged at the sheriff's department. Community services is good to be out in the public, but I think we can gain the same by having our officer engage more on one-on-one in the community while he's working. He's getting paid those 12 hours a day to engage with our public. Having 2,000-3,000 community services events a year, my opinion, I don't think they're 100% successful. Because what do people do? They go, they get their trinkets and they leave. They go, they get their little junk and they go. They don't get a message. People sitting there just, hi, thank you. And they're done. We're talking about millions of dollars being thrown out this way. We need more one-on-one engagement, more direct contact with our citizens, understanding why we're there, what we're doing there with a community services department. We purchase, and I use this example, bumpers on the patrol cars. They're $500, $600, $700 with the lights and the trinkets. You're talking about maybe $1,000. That doesn't cost a labor. You're talking 400 or 500 cars. We have a no-push policy with our cars. So why would you waste $1,000 per car for that? It's wasteful. It doesn't have to look pretty. People don't care what your car looks like when you come to their house. People care what's coming out of that car is going to take care of what they need. Just like these cars going from white to green. That was $600-700 per car. Do the math. So right now you're talking about $50,000 here, $50,000 there. That's 2 cops. We're short 53 cops. We could put 2 police officers to work in the neighborhood instead of wasting it on that. But the mentality right now is if you don't use it, you lose it. That's no good. And also they gave back like over $5 million. Why didn't that go into recruitment to bring more deputies to keep our streets safer? I don't think they're really utilizing and using that budget the way it should be. That's one of the things we're going to look at. We're going to sit down with the finance department, with someone who is very well-rounded with the budget, bring him on board, look at that to make sure that all our money is being used wisely and being allocated in the right place.
Are you brave, and why would you say so?
Well, I think anybody, you get to say you're either brave or stupid. I feel that I have a good amount of bravery, and I'll tell you why. I believe that every man has his destiny. I think that your name is written down somewhere. You have an expiration date, just like anything else. And I'm not saying push it, because you push it, of course, you're asking for trouble. But on a day-to-day basis, when you function, you see things out of the norm, or as a law enforcement officer, you're always running into the line of danger. It takes a certain amount of people, a certain kind of people to do this. And I think that it's kind of, I don't know, I never feel like it's brave. It's just one of the things you do, and it's just like second nature. It's like muscle memory. You have an incident happening, and someone needs help, you go. It's like I was at the tag office, we were getting signatures, and this lady was on the ground having a heart attack. And I'm not even working. I'm just a civilian now running for sheriff, and I'm getting signatures, and someone's like, help. I look, help. I ran over there, and she was having a heart attack. We worked on it. We worked until the sheriffs got there, and we saved her life, and she went to the hospital. And then when I thought about that, everybody was like, it made the news. People took pictures. And I said, man, this is like, I didn't even think. I just sprung into action. You go get this. You go do that. It's the way you're trained. And I think a lot of people are standing around not knowing what to do. But there's always that one person that doesn't matter what it is. They're always going to try to help. And there's thousands like me. So I think that's just kind of, I don't know if it's brave or it's just, I don't know. I just I don't think about that.
One last question for candidate Lopez. Could you please just tell me what the recruitment process for the academy would be?
Well, basically, in order to become a deputy sheriff or police officer, you have to go to an accredited police academy in the state of Florida. It's part of the FDLE requirements. It depends. If you go part-time, it could be like 10 months. If you go full-time, it could be a little over 6 months. You have to put in a certain amount of hours. The requirements are GED, high school diploma, no felony convictions. You could have been arrested probably for misdemeanor. Every academy has a different requirement. It's high school diploma, GED, like I said, are pretty much very basic. So pretty much anyone that meets those requirements, an American citizen is very important, and then you can actually meet the requirements to become, to go to the academy, and then potentially be picked up by a local law enforcement agency in order to start becoming a police officer.
I've noticed that a lot of people, they do pass the academy, but they're being sent elsewhere, like Seminole County, and if there is such a need for sheriff deputies in Osceola County, why are we sending our best and brightest elsewhere?
That is a good question. Under my watch, that's why I would love to put sponsorships, because you bring them on board, you sponsor them, and then you will hire them. But if you don't sponsor these young individuals after you recruit them, what's the sense of sponsoring them? Mm-hmm. You have to have the money and the budget to be willing to bring them on board, because we have a lot of good young men and women in Osceola County that qualify to be police officers. We could start recruiting from high school, or Valencia, because you have to be 21 to be a sheriff and 19 to be a police officer. So, you can bring them on board, even at any capacity, and then you start processing and sponsoring them through the police academy.
And sponsorship, what is that?
Sponsorship is we would pay for their academy.
Okay.
And there's a lot. There's money for that. We have money, and also the TICO facility, which has changed its name now. Mm-hmm. The directors of that facility have reached out to me and they said, "Hey, you start pushing recruits through our academy, we're going to give you a good discount. So it's even going to be a tax. It's not going to be. It's going to be more cost effective for the taxpayer."
Okay, and a recruit, they don't pay for that, or
no? We could actually, if you want to become a police officer and you go on your own, yes, you have to pay for it.
Okay.
But if you want sponsorship, reach out to the departments. But the departments have to advertise the sponsorship.
Okay.
And then they recruit you. If you meet the qualifications of the department, they'll pay for your academy. And then once you're done with the academy and pass the state exam, we bring you on board.
Okay.
We start the training process.
Does Osceola County have a recruitment process?
They do have a recruitment department.
Yes.
However, I don't think they're really pushing the recruitment like they're supposed to, because we're 53 cops short. So.
Okay. And that's not because there was no money to pay them.
No. Yeah, a lot of them are going to. They're going like to other counties. Like we don't pick them up. Like we're not sponsoring them. But once they graduate, we're short. But the sheriff will pick up maybe one or two. The rest will go to Orange County, Lakeland, OPD, and that doesn't make sense. We should be wanting to pick up at least 25 of them.
It's exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
What the thought process behind all that, I don't know, because I'm not there.
Okay.
But definitely, we've been lacking on picking up a lot of the good recruits that graduate from the TICO program.
I'd like to just say that that's all the questions that I have for candidate Lopez. But if you have any questions, would you please give your
You
website?
can reach us out to the thepeoplesheriff.com. It's just a little bit of information. It's kind of like, it'll look kind of like that. Thepeoplesheriff.com. When you click on it, you could probably do a zoom in later. We have a little bit of our trajectory and what we do. At Facebook, you can go to Marco Lopez for Osceola County Sheriff. It'll show some of our information there. And if you have any questions, just reach out to me at 407-222-6959. If you want to ask me a couple of questions and talk to me about what you feel is going to improve our relationship with the community. I'm probably one of the most well-rounded sheriffs. Like I tell people, a lot of these guys take pride that they've been patrolling for 35, 40 years. Just because you've been in a patrol car for 35, 40 years doesn't mean you've been doing it right. We've seen that. Our system is long overdue for reform. We need new-minded people in there that are going to have the community at interest. And those are kind of the things that we're going to bring. And the same like-minded people are going to be running our sheriff's department.